Hopecore cinema has become more and more popular in recent years, and it's quite understandable why. When it feels like the world is falling around you and you can't open your phone without learning about something new and horrible going on, it's comforting to watch something that makes you feel good or tells you it's going to be okay. If I'm being quite honest, these films are usually hit or miss for me. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy quite a few of them, but I either find myself begrudgingly going along with the happy elements, or sometimes struggle with the feeling that the movie hasn't earned the sappy feel-goodness it's going for. My biggest issue when I peruse these lists, though, is what I feel is a huge omission, and possibly the peak of the subgenre: true stories. True Stories was written and directed by David Byrne. It's the only film he ever made as the writer, director, and star. If you somehow aren't aware, David Byrne is an artist who it feels impossible to lock into just one box, but you're most likely familiar with his music in the band he was a part of, Talking Heads. Byrne was a founding member of the band, as well as the lead vocalist, songwriter, and guitarist. It was actually after a screening of the 1984 Talking Heads concert film, Stop Making Sense, that Byrne showed close friend Stephen Tobolowsky a collection of drawings he made, all based on tabloid stories he had heard from his time on tour. Byrne told Tobolowsky he was interested in making a film based on the concept, what if all these stories were true? Byrne then asked Tobolowsky and his wife, Beth Henley, to pen a script. After they did and sent it to him, it took a year for Byrne to get back to them, and with a nearly completely different script. Tobolowsky provided the idea of framing the film around Texas's sesquicentennial celebration, and that the wild characters of Byrne's film would best fit into it. The choice to make the setting for the film a fictional town in Texas makes sense, as in many ways, Texas as a state feels emblematic of the nation as a whole, and especially at the time, was what many outside of America saw as a representation of the nation, from its crazy citizens, but also because of the free spirit of the state. We're talking about a state that has thrown on multiple occasions to separate from the US as a whole. Part of the genius of True Stories that makes it work so well is the line it toes between sincerity and sarcasm. Byrne is taking a large magnifying glass to the absurd world of Middle America, the dark history of what it took to bring us here, but also the beauty that still can be found in the everyday. The opening of the film sees a young girl walking down a road that seemingly leads nowhere, surrounded by open and plain fields. Byrne lays out much of the film here. He talks about how the country has changed a lot already, but it feels like another big one is coming, before remarking on how somebody must be able to remember what the world was like. Byrne then launches into a story about the history of Texas, the dinosaurs that once walked there, the Native Americans who once inhabited the land before being wiped out and forcefully moved or killed, how everyone was fighting everyone, how even after the Native Americans were forced out, the Americans then came and did the same thing to the Spanish-speaking population there. But he then seamlessly transitions this sad and dark backstory to the beauty that humanity still creates, that we still find joy in a world that is increasingly scarier and more depressing. This is a really tough balance to nail, but it's also key for the film working and a large part of what I love so much about it. The film isn't ignorant to the darkness of the world, but it isn't ruled by that either. The fear-mongering of organizations that traditionally look to comfort those, like the church and the just wonderful Puzzling Evidence song, are emblematic of this. The scene that this directly transitions to is Byrne driving again, in open fields, as he shuts off the radio and looks off. We see a newspaper floating in the wind, which Byrne remarks,
"Look at this. Who can say it isn't beautiful?"
So much of what works about the movie is in this moment. To me, real hopecore, or better put, movies that really inspire me to keep going, don't disregard the negative and terrifying parts of life, but embrace them, and show beauty comes from that too. In a film filled with gorgeous shots of fields and city lights, this line comes when driving past a suburban neighborhood that is littered, but there's beauty in the fact that life was there. The sky, the bricks, hope, fear, excitement, to not let the darkness of what's around you rule your mentality or outlook. Even though it feels like there's much to fear and dread wherever you look, joy is just around the corner. You just have to find it. Of course, the music in the film is incredible. With Talking Heads producing an album to accompany the movie and Byrne working on and supervising many of the other songs, it was inevitable that the score would be an instant classic. There are some incredible songs, like the aforementioned Puzzling Evidence, but also City of Dreams and many more. The entire film hums like a musical. It has this incredible harmonic energy throughout the entire movie that helps it so seamlessly flow. It gives it this amazing rhythm and energy. One of my favorite stories about this film is the casting of John Goodman. While we may have all taken John Goodman for granted as one of the more talented actors working today, it wasn't until his mid-30s that he popped. The Coens have come out and tried to make it clear that they found John Goodman even before this, but True Stories was his first major role in a feature film. Goodman really helps to put this whole thing together, and feels like the heart of the film in many ways. His blind optimism and hope comes off as silly and naive for a lot of the film, but his earnestness is his superpower. He's incredibly wacky and out there like the rest of the town, but he also seems to be genuine, and that's so much of this movie. For all their eccentricities and absurdness, those tabloid articles and the characters in the film have a truth to them. They are or come from real people. Byrne is too too normal to the point of being also off-putting, and the rest of the cast is a bit too absurd almost all of the time. Goodman feels real, and his story of seeking love in a changing world was pretty effective on me. It would be hard to talk about this film without discussing how downright beautiful it is. There is an incredible use of vibrant colors contrasted with one another, and you can see Burns' early framing adapted down to nearly the last detail in plenty of these shots. The film is incredibly expressive and oozing with that life that I keep discussing. Whether it be the stunning exteriors, empty fields and plain lands rarely look this amazing, or the eye-popping lights and colors indoors, like when we see Goodman at his job. But part of what made the visual palette of the movie so great to me was how it used typically off-putting or ugly conventions, both in contrast and on its own, to create something gorgeous. Many of the interior shots, like the factory or inside of the mall, feature a lot of teal fluorescent overhead lights, which makes it immediately stand out next to the exterior scenes. But the film owns this color palette. These places are more corporatized, less free, and inherently expressive than the beautiful country just outside the doors, but people still find and create joy there. The mall is maybe my favorite section of the film, and the most emblematic of this. The overhead lights are drowned out by beaming colors and vibrancy, not just from the stores and pop-up shops, but in the people's outfits and in art. I find it important what Byrne is saying here too. He mentions how shopping malls have effectively replaced the town square as the center of cities, and shopping itself has become the activity that brings people together. While many films might leave it there, acknowledging how consumerism and forces outside of our control have pushed us into more spending and consuming, I adore how Byrne doesn't view this as only a negative, that people still find a way to connect and create happiness. Look at how perspectives have changed on the idea of a shopping mall from then to now. Could you imagine this happening on an Amazon screen? But that mentality isn't what the film is saying. We create meaning and we create connection, and Byrne is showing how people find a way regardless. Look at the factory scene. It could so easily make these moments drab, but they aren't, because even if the world isn't fair or you're stuck in a menial job, you still create joy. Happiness perseveres regardless. I was quite bothered by a reading of a film that I quite enjoyed that I was reading online the other day. Perfect Days. I won't mention the person or their letterbox, but if you've been on film Twitter, you likely know what I'm talking about. Basically, the review alleged that the film was pro-capitalist because it was a film about Hirayama's joy in the simplicity of his life. Not only is this a very reductionist reading of the movie in my opinion, it misses the point altogether. That film, much like this one, is clear about the negatives and struggles of its characters' lives under capitalism and an increasingly consumer-driven and corporate-ran world. But people still find joy even in those systems. We are the source of happiness. Both these films acknowledge that the system is flawed, but good things still come from the humans involved. And I find that so much more moving and beautiful than a story that is just black and white. So many filmmakers have attempted to emulate this style, the sort of weird but deeply sincere and authentic feeling that permeates throughout this movie. You can see this all over Wes Anderson's work, especially films like Asteroid City and The Grand Budapest Hotel. But no film has captured the ineffable charm of this movie. It truly does feel like a love letter to the odd corners, the nooks and crannies of America, in a way that can't be artificially replicated. This film is a slice of life in the truest sense, because it was created that way, through tons of glimpses into the lives of people. The conception of the film spells out the genius. What if all these stories were true? While the film is occasionally poking fun at the absurdity of these people and situations, it never feels malicious or like the film is looking down on those people. The woman discussing her psychic abilities, or the woman who never moves, the man who believes he can read radio waves. What if it was all real? There's beauty in these stories we tell ourselves, the worlds we create to continue going on, and I find that really touching. The line that has stuck with me most from this film is when Byrne is walking through the mall and says,
What time is it? No time to look back.
In an age where the smartphone exists, and all your fears, worst mistakes, and painful memories exist at your fingertips at all times, a message about how the only thing you could do is push forward feels more prescient than ever. Thank you for watching.